Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the sixth webinar of the Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture Working Groups Learning Series. This is the last commodity-based session for this learning series, and the succeeding sessions will be on cross-cutting themes. And before we start with this session, we are announcing yet again that if you have donation drives for the victims of Typhoon Rolly, just email us and we will help you reach wider audience to get as much donations. And before I officially start, my name is VJ, the Communications Manager of PPSA, and I will be your host for this afternoon session. Before we proceed, let me share our webinar rules. So we are recording this webinar, but rest assured that we will take out the last part, which is the open forum, once we publish the recorded webinar on PPSA's YouTube and Spotify accounts. Your mic is automatically on mute, but we will give you permission to speak once we get into the open forum part of the webinar. And should you have questions during the presentation, kindly type them in the Q&A box for better tracking of the questions. And we will accommodate as many questions as we can while considering our time allotments for each section. And if you have technical issues, you can use the chat box to ask for assistance, or you can also try logging off and on again, or you can email the PPSA Secretariat if this still doesn't work. Okay, just a quick background about us, especially for those who just came in for this session. Next slide, please. PPSA, or the Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture, is a multi-stakeholder partnership platform for agriculture that was catalyzed by Grow Asia and the Philippine Department of Agriculture. Our setup is a public-private partnership one. So we have the Department of Agriculture as our co-chair to represent the public sector, and Unilever Philippines for the private sector. Next slide, please. PPSA, as I have mentioned, was catalyzed by Grow Asia, which is a regional platform catalyzed by the World Economic Forum. And Grow Asia is also a recognized entity by the ASEAN Secretariat. And our activities and programs are being funded by different organizations, where the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or the Australian DFAT, leads as the main funder. And next slide, please. This is just a geographical representation of Grow Asia Network, where its country partnerships are present, which include Cambodia, Myanmar, Indonesia, Vietnam. We also have the Papua New Guinea, and of course, the Philippines. Grow Asia is headquartered in Singapore, and as you can see, for the past 5 years, we have reached 1.8 million farmers through 44 working groups and 37 value chains. We are also a lean team. For the Philippines, actually, just Ami and I are the ones overseeing the operations in the country, with some tech directions from the Grow Asia. And next slide, please. Um, PPSA offers some of these work streams and value to our members and partners, which include the knowledge and learning, of which part of it is what you are attending right now, which is the learning events, and of course the information sharing. And we have 5 commodity-based working group and 2 cross-cutting teams, which either work to develop value chain projects or push for a sectoral agenda. But underway are working groups for the we underway is the development of working groups for digital fruits and rice. And we also have the secretariat level activities, which include but not limited to market linkage and roadmap or policy support. Next slide. Okay, that's it about us. If you want to know more about PPSA and Grow Asia, you may visit growasia.org, or you may reach us at secretariat@ppsa-ph.org. Okay, now that you have learned the overview about us, of course, we want to know you as well. There is a poll that's going to appear on your screen, and we want you to choose from among the options of which, from which sector do you represent or affiliated with. Okay, so we should have at least 60 to 70% before we flash the result. Okay. Okay, so we have participants from the government. Bulk of the participants are from the government. We also have from the academe or research institutions, and there we also have from CSOs and NGOs, and of course farmer groups, and there are also other entities present here. So I think this is a good mix of participants. So we are expecting different perspectives during the Q&A and the open forum where everyone is invited to speak. Okay, now to share with you the objectives and the agenda of this session, may I invite PPSA's Country Director, Ami Chua, for the introduction. Over to you,
Thank you,
Ami.
VJ. Thank you, VJ, and good afternoon, everyone. We are happy to have all of you here this afternoon. So, this is our sixth installment of the PPSA Working Groups Learning Series. If this is your first time to attend the session, a warm welcome to you. To add to what VJ mentioned earlier, we operate through crop or commodity based and thematic working groups towards helping smallholder farmers. These working groups are composed of key players from both the public and private sectors, all people or all key players who share the vision of advancing the growth of the agricultural sector, particularly the industry they are engaged with. We have been receiving a number of requests for learning sessions, market information, and even market linkage related to fruits and fruit production. And today, we are happy to take our first step in finally creating the Fruits Working Group. So for this session, we invited the Department of Agriculture to speak on high value fruits, the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development, or PCAARRD, to share their rapid market appraisal on underutilized fruits, Morination Agriculture Products to share their initiatives, specifically the Million Moringa movement, and experiences as they work with many farmer groups in the Philippines. And last but definitely not the least, Tuko Distribution, both a company and a social advocacy tool helping farmers and MSMEs in the Philippines. After the presentations, we will proceed to with the roundtable discussion, and we invite all of you to participate, share your insights on how we can better work together to advance a vibrant and fruitful industry in the Philippines, to help our fruit farmers and eventually promote a wider fruit consumption. Of course, in our capacity as a multi-stakeholder platform, PPSA will do our best to initiate national and cross-country knowledge exchanges, sectoral efforts, and linkages to reach those goals. We hope that at the end of the session today, we can identify areas for that need more collaborative efforts, and this will guide us in setting up the Fruits Working Group. So again, many thanks for devoting your time for this session. We hope that you will find this session useful and engaging. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at mabuhay mula sa PPSA.
Thank you so much for that, Ami. Okay, we mentioned in our background there for this session that our country is a major fruit producer and exporter, which include banana, pineapple, papaya, and mango, among others. And these crops are what considered as high value. Now, to give us the current status of the fruit industry, especially the high value crops, we have here Director U-Nichols Manalo. Director Yu is the current director of the Systems-Wide Climate Change Office and the concurrent chief of the Special Projects Coordination and Management Assistance Division of the Department of Agriculture. Prior to these two positions, he served as the OIC Regional Executive Director of the Department of Agriculture Region 8 Field Office in Tacloban City from December 2016 to November 2017. He joined the DA in January 2002 as a project development officer and rose from the ranks. Director Manalo earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Economics at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and his Master's degree in Agricultural Science at the Graduate School of Agricultural Science in Tohoku University in Japan. And at present, he is a PhD candidate at the same university working on his dissertation. His fields of interest are on rural development, agricultural extension, organic agriculture, of course, climate change adaptation and mitigation, disaster risk reduction and management, and human security. With this, I am now giving the mic to Director Manalo.
Thank you, VJ. Apology, because I think the first, I mean the my position that was reflected is it's just my past uh, designation. Okay. Currently now I'm the OIC director of the DA High Value Crops Development Program. My directorship under the climate change ended last January of this year, and starting April of this year, I was designated or assigned by the secretary to assist and help Undersecretary Evelyn Davinia, who is the Undersecretary for High Value Crops and Rural Credit. So I'm helping the program now. Thank you again. Thank you for PPSA for inviting us in this webinar. Okay. So my presentations, the overview of my presentation will be this: status of the fruit industry. Basically, I'll be touching about the major fruits, then opportunities in the market, as well as the ongoing projects and initiatives of the High Value Crops Development Program of the Department of Agriculture. So next slide, please. Okay, in the screen, major commodities or major fruits that are exported fresh, okay, from the Philippines are banana, pineapple, and mango. Banana is the top fresh fruit export of the Philippines, and just last year, total fresh imported banana around 1.95 billion US dollar. This does not include the processed banana. Okay, same also with pineapple and mango. These are just the fresh fruit. So the major destinations are here in Asia, including the Middle East. Sufficiency level for banana is 330%. Second fruit export is pineapple. Again, around 617 million worth of exported pineapple was last year, and major destinations is the US and UAE, and again China and Japan and Korean market. Sufficiency level for pineapple, napakataas natin dito. It's 1,446%. Third top fresh fruit being exported is mango. Okay, so around almost 1 billion peso. Okay, in 2000. Sorry, this is not updated. In 2018, yung value of export niya. Then again, the major export destination are Japan, Korea, as well as Hong Kong and Canada. And if sa banana, the number one variety being exported is the Cavendish. For mango naman, it's the Carabao mango. Okay. Sufficiency level for this fruit is 149%. Next slide, please. Okay. This slide will just show the volume of production second quarter of this year, okay, April to June 2020. Okay. This is the latest of the available PSA data. So for banana, it experienced a 1.3 production decline, as well as for calamansi. No, banana I bananas major producing region is in Davao region. Okay, lalo na yung the Cavendish variety. Then for calamansi, decline also of 19.7. Primarily, the reason for this decline is the low productivity fruits. Some of the farmers, or most of the farmers, are not uh, uh, practicing rehabilitation of their fruit trees. Calamansi producing regions is the Mimaropa region. Then for mango, mango has an increase because the data includes yung harvest of the Ilocos region last April and during summertime, April and May. Then for pineapple, also a 1.4% increase. Again, this is the data covering just the second quarter of this year. For pineapple, the biggest producing region is in northern Mindanao. Andiyan naman yung mga big plantations natin like Dole, Del Monte, etc. The next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows the volume and export data of 2019, from 2015 to 2019. So for export, I think banana accounts for around 34%, okay, of the uh, produced. Then 14% of pineapple production of pineapple is being exported. But for mango, just 2% of the production are being exported. Okay. Next slide, please. So for banana, as I've said, there are three varieties: Cavendish, mainly for export; Saba or the Cardaba for processing. Okay, this is also one of our exported product as banana chips. Okay. Then for Lakatan, it's usually the table food. Okay. So the table also shows the five producing provinces for Cavendish. It's Bukidnon, Davao del Norte, Davao del Sur, the city of Davao, including Davao de Oro, the former Compostela Valley province. So lahat po is Mindanao. Okay. For Sabah, okay, the top producing provinces are North Cotabato, Lanao del Norte, Davao del Sur, but this now includes Samar or Western Samar province, as well as Iloilo. So again, the slide also shows yung the volume of their production. Next slide, please. So for pineapple, the top 10 producing provinces are Bukidnon, South Cotabato, in Mindanao, Camarines Norte. I think this is the Queen Pineapple of Camarines Norte. Misamis Oriental, Cavite, again Davao, North Cotabato, Sarangani, Laguna, and Iloilo. Uh, I think six of the producing areas for pineapple are being accounted by Mindanao. Then for mango, okay, in Region 1, it's Pangasinan, okay, at Zamboanga del Norte, Cebu, Batangas, and also Isabela is the top 10 province producing mango. But if you would look into the mango being produced in the Philippines, as I've said, it's while it for this year it increased, but the main challenge for mango is the infestation of seaweed fly. Okay. I think it will be shown in this slide for issues and challenges for the industry. Next slide, please. Okay. One of the fruit also being exported is papaya. Okay. And in 2019, around 5,630 metric tons fresh and dried papaya are being exported to Korea and the United Kingdom. And except for Cebu, the top four producing provinces for papaya are based in Mindanao. Next slide, please. We also have what we call the emerging fruits. Okay. And one is durian. We call this the king of fruits. Okay. There are around 1.3 million fruit-bearing trees in the Philippines. And again, Davao region is the top producer. And for avocado, there are around 540,000 avocado-bearing trees in the Philippines. And, I think later in the presentation, I think of Rene, he will also discuss the potentials of avocado. Okay. Another one is the mangosteen or the queen of fruits. Okay. Around 277,000 fruit-bearing trees, and one of the biggest producer is the Zamboanga Peninsula or Region 9. Next one is the jackfruit. Okay. And I think in the Philippines, it's the Eastern Seaboard regions, Region 5 and Region 8 are producing this jackfruit. Lastly is the calamansi or the citrus. Uh, there are around 8 million fruit-bearing trees nationwide. And again, as I've shown in the earlier slide, Mimaropa is the top region, top producing region. So next slide, please. This just shows the the production trend of durian and the top producing provinces. Two are in Region 11. Okay. One is Sulu, then North Cotabato in Region 12, and again in Zamboanga del Norte in Region 9. Next slide, please. For Calamansi, Oriental Mindoro is the top producer, and meron din sa sa Mindanao, it's Zamboanga Sibugay and Davao del Norte as the top 3 and top 5. If you would notice in the production trend, it's declining because, as I've said earlier, some of the producing farmers in the producing provinces are not uh, doing rehabilitation of their fruit trees. So next slide, please. For mangosteen, the producing provinces are Zamboanga del Norte. As I've said, it's Zamboanga region is the top producer for mangosteen. And all of these are in Mindanao, the top five producing provinces: Sulu, North Cotabato, Davao del Norte, and Davao City. So next slide, please. For avocado, uh, this is we don't have data on the varieties, but in terms of the export country or export destination, Malaysia is the number one export country, followed by Russia and the UAE. Okay. Next slide, please. For jackfruit, uh, I mentioned earlier that the producing regions are Bicol, okay, Region 5 and Region 8. And for the past, for 2000, starting 2014 until 2017, uh, if you would look into, there are not much area, the decline in terms of area being harvested is because these areas are usually affected or impacted by natural calamities. And again, the rehabilitation or replanting of affected trees are limited in terms of the budget being provided. The program does not provide the total requested budget because we almost allocate the bigger portion of the program's budget to other commodities like the industrial crops like coffee, cacao. But for this year, the number one or the top commodity receiving budget for the high value is mango. Next slide, please. In terms of the potential of this fruit commodities from the Philippines, if you would look into the uh, world per capita consumption by type, almost all the mentioned fruits, the demand for or the consumption for the mentioned fruits are increasing. Okay, so there are potentials. Next slide, please. So for the value-added products, so these are just examples of uh, the value-added products from these commodities or from these fruits: juices, concentrates, ice cream, freeze-dried or vacuum-fried fruit chips, as well as these fruits are also being used as ingredients or components of supplements. Next slide, please. So these are the issues across the value chain. Okay. For pre-production, lack of accredited nurseries for quality planting materials, and the high cost of input or investment requirement. So these are available projects or activities being implemented by the program or by the Department of Agriculture. The establishment of mother science group and accreditation of nurseries, as well as continuous R&D to improve the existing varieties. Credit assistance and government financing. from accredited or from the government financial institutions such as the Agricultural Credit Policy Council, okay, the Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, as well as Land Bank, and I think also DBP. Under production, major issues are low productivity, which is needed for tree rehabilitation and fertilization, the continued uh, presence of pests and diseases like for seaweed fly for mango or fusarium wilt for Cavendish banana. Okay. There are ongoing R&D projects to address this problem, as well as continued capacity building to the conduct of good agricultural practices. Then the lack of economies of scale, which affects the distribution of seedlings for expansion. And one also of the strategy of the department now is to cluster these farms and also to consolidate these production areas. Next slide, please. For post-harvest and processing, there are high post-harvest losses, and these are, I mean, what I am uh, showing here of the actions and ongoing projects are the projects and activities being implemented by the High Value Crops program of the Department of Agriculture. So to respond to this identified concern, such as these post-harvest and processing issues, we promote, okay, the uh, good manufacturing packaging practices, as well as post-harvest handling practices. Then to address the lack of post-harvest and processing facilities, the establishment of packing house, cold storage, and community-based processing facilities, as well as the provision of hauling trucks and reefer van. For issues involving marketing, because some of the fruits or most of the fruits are just have seasonality, okay, that affects its stable supply. So one of the strategy is the production during off season. Then also the presence of traders and middlemen under just for this year, starting this year, also as a response to the current pandemic, wherein the transport and logistics for the fruits and vegetables coming from Mindanao as well as in northern Luzon are affected. The Department of Agriculture implemented what we call the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita, or the rolling stores. And now it it also implement or introduce the e-Kadiwa, wherein it provides a platform for seller or farm producer to sell their products online. Then also it continues to conduct trade fairs and market punching. So for the low competitiveness to export market in terms of price, quality, and volume, the strategy now of the department also to complement the push for farm clustering and consolidation is to provide uh, mechanization, okay, to modernize the farming, production, as well as assist in the compliance to export requirement. Next slide, please. This slide shows the uh, activities uh, based on what we call the major final outputs of the department. Okay, the production support services just include the provisions of farm inputs, which includes the establishment of production facilities such as greenhouse, nurseries, or rain shelters, the conduct of extension support or other capability building training. This is in coordination with the Agricultural Training Institute. The conduct of research and development projects through the Bureau of Agricultural Research. Okay. Then the provision also of small-scale irrigation projects. Then the provision of farm production equipment, as well as machineries and post-harvest and processing equipment. Then lastly is the market development service, which is being implemented through the agribusiness and marketing assistance or marketing assistance division at the regional field offices. So next slide, please. So the slide shows just a sample of the activities under the what we call the major final output. These are the distribution of planting materials, construction of tissue culture laboratory, as well as the establishment of Foundation Zion Group. Next slide, please. Again, this slide shows the trainings conducted in terms of tree rehabilitation as well as classroom discussion. Next slide, please. For the small-scale irrigation, aside from the provision of high-density polyethylene drums and pipes, solar-powered irrigation is also being uh, established. Next slide, please. Under the agriculture and fishery machineries, equipment, and facilities support services for packing or sorting facility or establishment of packing and sorting facility, provision of hauling truck as well as plastic crates are being done by the program. Next slide, please. In support to the new normal, okay, the shift now of the department is to increase the food sufficiency level of basic food and other commodities, okay, through provision of through mechanization, okay, farm consolidation and clustering, the involvement of the private sector, as well as getting the required investment or budgetary support coming from our uh, legislative department, as well as focusing on production to consumption value chain, empowering the marginalized sector, and support diverse distribution efforts with good logistics, and encouraging people to be entrepreneur at the local level and partnering them with established or successful agribusiness uh, companies adopting the big brother, small brother approach. The mentorship program of DA is being done in partnership with the Go Negosyo under the in coordination with the Agricultural Training Institute. So I guess this is the last slide for my presentation. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, maraming salamat po, Director Yu, for that comprehensive presentation of the production trend, the situation of some major and high-value fruits, and of course, the initiatives of the government for the fruit sector. There are some questions already coming in directed to you, but we have the time for your live response later after the second presentation. For our participants, keep your questions coming by using the Q&A box. Okay. We just heard from Director Yu the status of high-value fruit crops in the Philippines and the general overview of the sector. Now, there are also underutilized fruits that, if given attention, will have the potential to increase the profitability of smallholder farmers. And of course, they can help our country in the greening program as they are fruit trees. To give us more about the underutilized fruits and the initiatives of the agency where he belongs, we have here Dr. Ernesto O. Brown. Dr. Ernesto O. Brown holds a PhD in agricultural economics from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and currently sits as the director of the Socioeconomics Research Division, or SERD, of the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development, or PICARD. It's an agency under the Department of Science and Technology. His expertise includes agricultural policy, agricultural marketing, and research and development management, among others. Under his leadership, CERD is effectively pursuing important programs on policy analysis and advocacy in agriculture, aquatic and natural resources, or AANR, and socioeconomic evaluation of programs and projects funded by PICARD and DOST. Also, value chain and supply chain development of major AANR commodities and other key R&D areas in socioeconomics. The division is also the focal unit of PICARD on gender and development in AANR. Over to you, Dr. Brown.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Vijay. It's a pleasure to make a brief presentation about our work on underutilized fruits. Earlier, um, uh, Dr. Yu, we call him Yu because he also came from Picard actually. Um, Discussed a lot about most of the high value fruits, fruits that are highly commercialized. This time, what I'll discuss are those fruits that are underutilized. In other words, limited commercialization. My presentation, my outline will be first, I'll um, give or introduce my organization, Picard. I just would like to take this opportunity to introduce Picard. And then after that, I'll give you the highlights of what we're doing with regards to this study on rapid market appraisal for underutilized fruits in the Philippines. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is about PICARD. PICARD is the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development, and it is one of the planning councils of the Department of Science and Technology. There are only three planning councils under the department. One is for industry, that is the Philippine Council for Industry and Emerging Technology Research and Development, we call it PSHRD. Another one for health, and this is the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, that is PCAARRD. And the third council, which is the largest actually, is this one, PICARD, no? And this is the largest because we cover, in agriculture, we cover both crops and livestock. For aquatic, we cover both inland and marine. And natural resources includes the environment. So this is really very, very large sectors being covered by the council. And essentially, the mission of this council is to provide strategic leadership in promoting science and technology as a platform for AR&R products innovation and environment resiliency. Next slide, please. And these are the mandates of PICARD. We have four mandates: formulation of policies, plans, and projects and strategies. So with this mandate, you would see that PICARD is actually the apex organization as far as research and development in agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources. Second is we program and allocate government and external funds. We monitor research and development projects, and we generate external funds. Next slide, please. And we have four banner programs: strategic research and development, R&D results utilization, policy research and advocacy, and capability building, and R&D governance. And we operationalize this banner program through our industry strategic science and technology plans, or ISPs, which are essentially the blueprints of R&D programs and projects to address constraints or gaps being faced in those commodity industries. Next slide, please. Okay, as I have mentioned that already, that's a blueprint of R&D. Next slide, please. We have so far we have 39 ISP. So these are the focus research. These are the focus commodities of the council. We have 14 for ISPs. We have 14 ISPs on crops. We have 5 on livestock. We have 5 on environmental services. We have 11 on inland and marine aquatic. We have 4 on forestry. And we have 1 on agri-aqua feed system. Next slide, please. All right. So this is, well, this is the, actually, this is just the organization of the project, no? Of this RMA, Rapid Market Appraisal Project. I'm the one leading the project. With me are Miss Princess Annie and Miss Annette Tobias, and then we have our very good technical staff, as well as administrative support staff. We have Ian, Tessa, Rochelle, uh, Paula, and Colleen. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this presentation of the highlights of what we're doing here on this project on RMA fruits, I'll, well, of course, we'll cover briefly the rationale, objectives of the study, methodology, and then I'll give you the highlights and the summary and conclusion. Next slide, please. Okay, so why are we into this rapid market appraisal of underutilized fruits? Earlier, Director Nichols or U-Nichols um, discussed a number of very important fruit crops in the country, export crops like banana, mango, and papaya. These are highly commercialized fruits in the country. But actually, we have around 300 edible fruits and nut species in the country, but only 20, about 20, are being grown commercially. So you see, out of 300, we're just basically commercializing or significantly commercializing 20 or about that number. Um, and if you look at but if you look at these underutilized fruits, these are fruits that are of high demand. Actually, there is a good demand for these fruits, and but there are limited studies on them. There is even a lack of statistics, you know. So if you can find even in PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority, you'll get good statistics for the highly commercialized fruits. When you go to underutilized fruits, statistics is really very limited, and there are not much reports on the major players and processors in the country. So very little is known really about these underutilized fruits, and therefore we set out to understand more the market status, potential, and constraints of these underutilized fruits to be able to formulate R&D intervention along their supply chain that would improve productivity and efficiency. So that's basically the motivation of this study. Next slide, please. This the general objective of the study is to understand the industry and market for selected underutilized fruits in the country, uh, including guava, soursop, sugar apple, and tamarind. So we covered 4 important underutilized fruits. The specific objectives are to determine the market status and market potential of these underutilized fruits, understand the marketing system, constraints and opportunities, identify areas for intervention along the supply chain, and provide recommendations for appropriate programs and policies for promoting production and market intervention. Next slide, please. This is well, we applied the rapid market appraisal. It's really a straightforward methodology, uh, but just so you can appreciate it, uh, um, we basically tried to answer six key questions in order to understand the market and market potential of these underutilized fruits. The first one is the first key question is, who are the key customers? What are their product requirements? So we start, of course, with the key customers. Who are the buyers? Who buy these products, and what are their requirements in terms of variety, in terms of volume, in terms of some quality specification. And then um, the second question is, what are the activities and processes along the chain? So that would be from production to trading, uh, you know, uh, which would include logistics, um, marketing. What are those activities? And third is, who are the main players and what are their roles? Uh, because we would like to see whether, in many agricultural commodities in the Philippines, well, especially in developed or underdeveloped and developing countries, um, um, it's typical to have quite inefficient uh, market uh, market system where you have a lot of players, and then you have a lot of redundant players, no? Players who are not really uh, uh, contributing to value added. Uh, and the fourth is, what is the flow of product, information, and payment. So we look at the product flow, the information flow, as well as the payment flow. Fifth is, what are the logistics issues? And sixth, what are the external influences? When we say external influences, we're referring to policies. What are those policies? Mainly, no policies, um, which, of course, affect the performance, affect the operation of these industries. Next slide, please. We did market tracing. The study involved market tracing. We trace it from the farmers to traders to the key customers. Next slide, please. Okay, so next slide, please. We start with guava. Guava is, of course, I think everybody knows, it's locally known as bayabas. There are two types of guavas in the country. The native one, which are relatively smaller, yellow and pink flesh. It weighs around zero point 0.1 kilogram to 0.33 kilogram. Turns yellow green when ripe. Then we have the guapol or guava apple, which weighs around zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.5. It turns light green when mature. The tree can grow up to 3 to 10 meters high, and its trunk can attain a diameter of 30 centimeter. It bears fruit after 3 to 4 years of planting and 2 to 3 years if asexually propagated. It remains productive for 15 years or longer if pruned extensively. It can grow at a tropical and subtropical climate. Next slide, please. So that's just a brief description of this. Um, what we've seen, and which we consider as really an alarming trend, is the considerable decline in the yield of guava. Both also the total production and area planted uh, are declining, although not as much as the rate by which yield has been declining, and that is also the reason why the interest of Picard has been drawn to these underutilized fruits, because of the declining yield. Next slide, please. Sarsap is locally known as Guyabano. It grows about 5 to 3 meters tall, and then uh, it bears fruit 3 to 5 years of planting. It can be grown in places with distinct dry season. Next slide, please. We actually have very limited statistics from PSA. In other words, official statistics, and in fact, that's going to be one of the issues that we will point out later. The very limited data uh, that can be accessed on these commodities. Next slide, please. Okay, sugar apple is Atis. It grows about 3 to 5 meters tall. Uh, Green fruited sugar apple is the most common variety. It, it thrives in warm and humid tropical, subtropical environment. Next slide, please. If you look at that, again, yield is declining. Uh, it's on a decreasing trend. Next slide, please. Then we have sampalok or tamarind. This one can grow to 80 feet in height and can spread 20 to 30 feet. Um, it's a it takes 47 years before fruiting, but it remains productive for 150 years or more. We have two types of tamarind: the sour type, which is the most common type, and we have the sweet type. No? We have the Makham Waan or Thailand sweet tamarind. We have the Manila sweet, distributed by USDA, and we have the Aglibut sweet. This sweet tamarind is registered in BPI and SIC. Next slide, please. Again, what is quite concerning is that the yield is really uh, on a downtrend. No? It has been declining. Uh, Volume has been declining. Um, Even I think area planted, although not quite as much. Next slide, please. Who are the key customers and product requirements for guava and Sarsap? It's the micro, small, medium enterprises engage in uh, these are still cottage level industry processing, uh, producing candies, jam, wine, vinegar, puree, juice, and so on. Um, we have we also have multinational companies, uh, and this one are those producing juice in can for guava, and for Sarsap, uh, you have multinational companies involved in dried Sarsap, uh, nectar concentrate, and then for tamarind, you have mostly those for cottage level processing. This is the sweet type, which are processed into candies, jam, wine, vinegar. The sour type um, is basically for industrial processors, no? Who produce juice, powdered flavoring mix. Next slide, please. Okay, for main players and their roles, we have just indicated here, just to shorten the presentation, the different players, and you can just see here, like for contract growers, we have not seen contract growers in Sarsap and Sugar Apple. Uh, we have not seen contract buyers in Sugar Apple. Uh, The farmers, contract growers, of course, farmers, contract growers, assemblers, contract buyers are all present in guava and in tamarind. Next slide, please. Agents. These are present in guava and sugar apple, not in soursop and tamarind. By the way, when you have the less um, number of players, it would indicate, at least indicate that the system, the marketing system, is I would say more efficient. There are less players involved. All right. So next slide, please. This is marketing channel for guava. Actually, if you look at the marketing channel, it's a typical of agricultural crops in the country, where the produce goes to the assembler, where you have village assemblers, and then they sell this to larger traders. Then it goes to wholesaler, retailer. Um, Sometimes you have a number of layers of wholesaler. Maybe you have wholesaler retailers. Then you have wholesalers only, things like those. Uh, and there are also some institutional buyers like restaurants. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's basically almost the same. As I've said, this is typical of marketing channel in the Philippines involving agricultural commodities in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So it's basically almost the same for all of these things, where it goes from farmers to village assembler, viajero agents, etc. Next slide, please. I just would like to focus more on the issues. Okay, so next slide, please. Uh, well, the I think an important findings, one of the important findings of the study is that there appears to be no circuitous flow along the chain. In other words, in terms of product flow, it's basically, I would say, efficient. Unlike other products, unlike uh, other agricultural products in the country, uh, where you commonly observe this circuitous flow. Like, for example, commodities from Baguio will be, uh, will be brought to Divisoria, and then from Divisoria it will go to Pangasinan. No, that's circuitous because Baguio to Pangasinan is of course much shorter. But so what happens is it goes first to Divisoria, then goes back to Pangasinan. That's something like a circuitous flow. We have not observed such in among these underutilized fruits. Next slide, please. Uh, for information, farmers are price takers because of the limited number of buyers, and they rely on traders for the pricing. For technical information, it's basically well, they actually rely on their own experience, but it's other farmers become their source also because they seek advice from uh, uh, co-growers. Uh, for payment flow, it's basically they trade in cash basis. Um, there are cases, of course, of consignment, but this is not widespread. Uh, there are actually few farmers, no, who reported that they end up not being paid under consignment. So relatively, it's a better situation. in underutilized fruits than many of agricultural commodities in the country. Next slide, please. Okay, so for guava's industry assessment, I've said that it's decreasing area of production, decreasing volume of production. Production of native guava is from backyard or small-scale farms scattered throughout the country. Only few native guava are harvested, very low incentives in product grading and sorting. In other words, uh, low incentive or low premium for quality. Promotion of value-adding process such as jelly, jam, puree, fruit juices, wine, dried fruit syrup, and baby food. Increasing demand as a fresh fruit for the consumers, driven by its health benefits. Innovation through technology. Uh, it's in high demand in Manila and Cebu, and you have the presence of multinational companies that process guava into juices and spreads. Next slide, please. For soursop, its production is also a small scale farm scattered throughout the country. It's commonly intercropped actually with major crops as an additional source of income. It's low maintenance, only few management practices are being applied, low volume of production. Price is increasing primarily because really it's because of the limited supply. Then it's processed into various products such as canned beverages, jams, jellies, dried soursop, tea, ice cream, flavoring, and milkshake. Increasing demand as a fresh fruit and also uh, uh, particularly for health benefit. No? For I think there's good demand for guava, for soursop, for that. And then rising industry, especially in Atimunan, Quezon, where the LGUs and its residents are making programs and projects to make their municipality as the Guyabano capital of the Philippines. Next slide, please. Okay, we have here the sugar apples industry assessment. Production is concentrated only into two areas, Batangas and Pampanga. So uh, I think that's one interesting feature of this sugar apple industry. It's concentrated in two provinces, in Batangas and in Pampanga. It's low maintenance, only few management practices were being applied. There is only one variety which is being commercially grown. Uh, the price is actually the trend in price is decreasing. It's processed into various products such as ice cream, flavorings, and milkshakes. It is commercially grown in Lobo, Batangas, which is the Atis capital of the Philippines. All right, next slide, please. And this one is the highlight of the industry assessment for tamarind. Uh, just like the other fruits, it is from backyard, which are scattered throughout the country. It's low maintenance, it's naturally grown, does not require fertilizer application. Well, farmers are actually not applying fertilizer, but definitely fertilizer would do well, no, for this commodity. Price premium for quality. So there, I think there is a price premium for quality because there is an additional 4.68 pesos per kilogram profit if you do sorting and grading. So if you sort or you grade your produce, then you have at least 4.68 pesos as an additional price. Uh, Okay, processed products include the tamarind candy, wine, vinegar concentrate, jam, and sinigang mix. There's high demand for sweet type tamarind, especially in Pampanga, Magalang, which aspires to be the sweet tamarind capital of the Philippines. It is high demand for there's high demand for sour type tamarind for powdered flavoring mix and other processed products. It has great export potential. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the major issues. I think these are the most important ones, especially moving forward and then helping develop these um, uh, commodity industries for underutilized fruits. First, there is really lack of updated commodity statistics under PSA for guava, sarsap, and sugar apple. At least for tamarind, I think we have decent statistics. But for these three, guava, sarsap, and sugar apple, we have very, very limited data, limited statistics. There's an absence of a comprehensive program to develop the underutilized fruits industry in the country. Uh, Although for tamarind, we have just established the Tamarind R&D Center, and this is through the initiative of the Department of Science and Technology and PCAARRD. Now we have this Tamarind R&D Center. And then we have the unregulated land conversion, which significantly reduces area planted to underutilized fruits. We have the unabated cutting of trees when prices of guava and tamarind go down. I think this is one big problem. They are using these trees for charcoal, actually. So when uh, we have observed that one, yield is going down, and when prices also go down, then farmers will start cutting down these trees, turning them into charcoal. Next slide, please. High losses due to pests and diseases arising from poor pest management. I think we really have to have a good pest management program for these underutilized fruits. Improper use of inputs such as inorganic fertilizers and pesticides. Usage of synthetic fruit bagging material in guapo because they're using plastic. Maybe we can promote more environment-friendly materials. Lack of proper management practices and technologies to manage the high perishable nature uh, of guava, sarsap, and sugar apple. There is lack of knowledge on proper cultural management practices and technology, especially in managing height of tamarind trees and improving its productivity. Yes, because tamarind trees that we have in the country are really very high. You know? But we believe that this can be managed, like if you have some canopy management technologies that are being actually applied in other countries. Inadequate direct farm to market linkages is another issue. Next slide, please. And so, given those issues, we have these recommendations. Next slide, please. Include the underutilized fruits among the priority commodities for the collection and updating of commodity statistics under PSA. If we really want to develop these underutilized fruits, we can see that they really have very good potential. They have very good market potential. If we want to develop this, we should start by having good, reliable statistics on which policy decisions and other business decisions, farm management decisions can be made. Second, develop and implement a comprehensive program accelerating the growth of the underutilized fruits industries. Uh, Examine the issues and relevant policies on land use conversion and recommend measures to minimize the conversion of area planted to underutilized fruits to other purposes. And with regards to the cutting of trees in private land, and we really have to uh, recommend policy measures to minimize this practice.
Dr. Brown,
Yes,
requesting po to wrap up the presentation. Thank you so much
this
po.
is the last slide.
Sige po. Thank you so much po.
Promote the use of more eco-friendly inputs such as organic fertilizers and pesticides and organic material for fruit bagging. Conduct technology transfer activities to inform the farmers about the guidelines set by the FPA with regards to synthetic inputs application. Next slide, please. Ah, I'm sorry, hindi pa yung, that was not the last slide. Promote available information and technologies on proper cultural management. Develop and implement collaborative R&D program with other Southeast Asian countries. We actually did a benchmarking with Vietnam. It turned out that the situation is almost the same, Vietnam and the Philippines, with regards to these underutilized fruits. They also want to develop these fruits in their country, and we thought that it's going to be very good if these countries can collaborate. Develop and implement projects designed to effectively manage pests and diseases of underutilized fruits. Develop technologies and practices to effectively manage the highly perishable nature of these fruits. Forge direct farm to market linkages for underutilized fruits. Next slide, please. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much po, Dr. Brown, for that comprehensive information on the underutilized fruits in the Philippines and for presenting your recommendations that players in the agriculture sector may consider. All right. Now we are moving on to the Q&A part of this session. May I invite Dr. Brown and Director Yu to answer some questions posted by our participants. But I saw that Director Manalo has answered some of the questions posted, but we still have some or a number for this live responses. So for both speakers, can you talk about the issue of food loss in your respective topic? What's the rate of food loss in high value and underutilized foods if you have any data about it? And what's the initiatives being done for this challenge?
No, I can't, if I may answer, no, for the
Sige po.
underutilized fruits. I don't have now the data on this, but we are quite sure that the food loss, physical loss, particularly, due to poor handling, all of those things, post-harvest losses uh, would be very significant also in underutilized fruits. Uh, I just don't have the data.
Mm,
Um, the losses would be more in terms of especially losses due to post-harvest diseases, uh, where you can see those fruits just rotting, in those things, and very poor handling.
mm. Yes.
Yeah,
Uh, how
I'm
about
talking about food loss. When you say food loss, it's about the losses along uh, that is if you look at the value chain, would be the upstream part of the chain. You know? When you say food waste, that would be about at the downstream part of the chain. You know?
mm,
So that's where I'm coming. I'm
yes,
coming.
there's a difference po nga between the food loss and food waste. Okay. Director, you have how about your response po on the question posted?
Yeah, thank you, VJ, for the question. Actually, I think this question would somewhat be related to the question of Mr. Danilo Songko, no? Well, for the food loss, okay, I'll be talking about the losses that are being incurred by our producer in terms of by the farmers in terms of transporting it, or what we call the post-harvest losses. Okay, for the fruits, particularly for mango, those that are being transported from Davao del Sur to Manila during peak months, I'll be citing this. data from based on PhilMec report like last 2016. Okay, for peak months, it's around 30%. During lean months is 28%. And for those mango produced from Pangasinan and being transported to Manila, it's around 31%. For banana, from Agusan Sur to Manila using closed container van, it's around 16%, and for open truck, it's 20%. But anyway, what I would like to relate this to the question of Mr. Danilo Songko. I cannot at present cite specific fruits, okay? But what I would like to emphasize is for one area that the government or even the private sector can invest is in terms of processing, because if there are time for harvest or fruiting season of these fruits, especially for fruits, there are abundant supply in the market, and nasasayang lang no if lalo na ngayon during this current pandemic, kung early part of this year na nagkaroon ng travel restrictions. So yung mga gulay na bulok, yung ibang mga prutas, if there are processing, okay, facility near this, well, sabihin na lang natin yung mga major uh, market areas like in Nueva Vizcaya or even in the Trinidad, wherein farmers or producer can process their product into other like juice or concentrate or even other value added products, they can at least recover some of their investment or production investment by selling this into other into another type of end product or value added product. So I think of course, if you will be investing on processing, I think the market also, or the I mean intended buyers for this product should also you know uh, be identified, because farmers would like to have an insurance or an assurance that whatever they produce or whatever they manufacture has a direct market already. So thank you.
Mm. Thanks po, Director Yu. I think due to time constraints, for questions that we cannot answer live, we have Director Manalo and Dr. Brown who may answer the questions in the back end, and we actually have time for more questions or sharing during the open forum parts of the webinar. Okay. Thank you so much po, Director Yu and Dr. Brown, for the responses. Okay. Before we start with the second part of this session, we have a few reminders for our speakers and for our participants. For our succeeding speakers, your time allotment is only 5 to 8 minutes presentation. After the presentations, we will proceed with the Q&A. So if you have any questions, kindly type them in the Q&A box, and we'll request our speakers to respond to them during our moderated discussions. Your mic is still on mute, but we will give you permission to speak during the open forum. Just raise your hand virtually using the Zoom function available beside the Q&A box. Okay, at this point, we will proceed with the presentations on experience, initiatives, and perspectives relating to strengthening the fruit sector and the value chain, and of course, helping smallholder farmers in increasing their profitability. Our next speaker is Ms. Sharon Gonzales-Gulmatico, who is the founder and CEO of Morination Agricultural Products Incorporated. It's a social enterprise established in 2015 and a member of the UN Business Group and the Global Compact Network. She has a wide range of experience in project management with different multilateral organizations, and exposed herself in rural communities and sustainable development through projects dealing with hunger, inequity, injustice, and environmental issues. She currently spearheads the Million Moringa movement to unleash the full potential of the Moringa plant in support of the SDGs. And Ms. Sharon earned her political science degree from the Ateneo de Manila University. With that, I am now giving the mic to Ms. Sharon for her presentation.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Pranav, Ms. Ami, Mr. VJ, and distinguished guests. Every week, I look forward to PPSA's e-learning series. I'm honored to share with you our experiences in today's topic, Before that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our DA and PCAARRD representatives. They will be able to also assist us with some of the issues you're facing. Before I go to my main presentation, I'd like to share with you the challenges we have in procuring fruits despite the market demand for these overseas. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide, please. Last week, we informed our clients that we will not be exporting mangoes, Cavendish, bananas, and pineapples this year. We saw that our growers are not equipped to meet the volume, quality, and export requirements. The buying offers based on world prices are less than their production costs, and the fruit growers selling offers were not competitive as other ASEAN countries. For instance, for our mangoes, India sells their mangoes at 17 pesos per kilo, farm gate price, whereas our Carabao mangoes at farm gate price is pegged at 50 pesos. Production costs alone for our mangoes have been pegged at 45 pesos per kilogram in Central Luzon. From our experience, the dependence on small-scale non-commercial production fails to create the scale economies required to supply with sufficient fresh quality mangoes to deliver abroad. Global buyers tend to favor suppliers that can consistently and reliably deliver on time, have a competitive price point, and meet quality standards. Repeated failure to do so generally results in inclusion from their supply chains. We do not even have a good cold chain system to safely export the fruits. We had an experience with a logistics and forwarding company where our mangoes rotted away before documentations have been completed, only for them to inform us that they do not export fresh fruits. Also, with our experience in banana exports, we prepared 20 tons of Cavendish bananas, but only 1 ton passed export standards. Next slide, please. Moving forward to address this, we are currently source mapping our farms as a participant of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's pilot on responsible agri-supply chains in Southeast Asia. Detailed knowledge of our source farms is a key element for high-quality food production. This initiative explores a demand-driven cooperative framework for agricultural source mapping that connects individual growers to several stakeholders by means of a central database containing records of information collected within the framework of an integrated production program for intensively managed permanent crops, including fruits. Areas of difficulties are assisted, guided, and capacitated. Collaboration among farmers, Morination, various line agencies, and UN agencies provide a successful cooperative and comprehensive framework for agricultural source mapping. The maps highlight the complex interplay of the agricultural ecosystem composing the natural resources, growers, communities and its stakeholders, and its transformation, integration, and eventual alignment into the food systems and supply chain. Next slide, please. Now to our main fruit. This plant is indeed the miracle tree. It is both a vegetable and bears fruits. A plant that is endemic in Southeast Asia. We believed in the plant so much, we named our company Morination after it. Before we had all these engagements, it has been the Moringa or the malunggay at our core. We believe that this plant could leave an impact to the world when the SDGs culminate in 10 years. Next slide, please. The malunggay shares with it our basic human tenets. Its humility comes to fore that it grows anywhere silently until the need for it arises. Notice our farm fields using the moringa as an inexpensive living barrier. Its root systems also nourishes the soil and is a deterrent to rodents. I speak of its resiliency, reflecting our human proclivities as well to survive even in difficult conditions. We have provided our malunggay seeds to researchers in UP Los Baños as they study its climate resiliency to fight desertification in Asia. As a crop, it needs little care, does not require a lot of water. Moreover, since the plant grows so fast, it is also used by growers as a foliar spray to increase plant growth and as an organic fertilizer to improve soil fertility for other crops. It is also calamity resistant. When Taal volcano decimated the region around it, including the area for growers in Laurel, the plants left standing and now thriving are our moringa trees. In the production of our products, processing facilities utilize solar and air dryers and cold press expellers that leave little to no carbon footprint. The fruits are sold at 250 pesos per kilogram, the price dictated by our growers. Prior to the COVID, we were buying from our growers 3 metric tons of Moringa fruits every summer. Now we're only able to purchase only 300 kilograms and are still stored in our warehouse to help our growers. We will plant 1 million seeds in Pangasinan during the rainy season next year. The moringa is very generous and grows in abundance. Our growers use this as a main source of livelihood. Our company is developing products that shall integrate nutrient-rich moringa in food. Post-COVID, we're also pilot testing the moringa seed oil with the AFP as an antiviral, anti-COVID solution. Together with Human Nature, we sent samples of our oil to the PPAC in Ateneo. Results have been promising as well as a source for wellness and health. Research has shown that its oil possesses antioxidants known to minimize the effects of aging. Cancer research also suggests the moringa as a potential anti-cancer drug. Numerous studies have shown anti-proliferation and induction of apoptosis or cell death by moringa on human cancer cells. It prevents oxygen from getting to the cancer, thereby affecting its destruction. Indeed, there's a myriad of reasons why it's called the miracle plant. Next slide, please. The Moringa initiative is scalable. Currently, we're working with 5 local communities. To reinforce the expansion of this initiative, we are developing strong linkages with our line agencies, such as DA, DSWD, DAR, and DENR. We are involved in its propagation in areas characterized by high incidences of poverty, unemployment, and deforestation, with the view of planting 1 million moringa in each region and distributing 1 million moringa food. We provide advocacy and science-backed research towards making malunggay as a viable force in climate action, inclusivity, and sustainable development. Our goals are to push the malunggay as a tree for climate action, as a valuable commodity for income generation and poverty alleviation, and as a high-value crop with the means of assisting the country's agenda of promoting wellness, fighting malnutrition, and providing food nutrition. Moving forward after the COVID, this is still a beautiful and blessed world because we have resources like the malunggay and our crops. We look forward to harnessing its properties for the good of all in our sector. I invite you to join us in our Million Moringa movement and to see how this plant can contribute to reaching the Sustainable Development Goals towards recovery in the new normal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for Ms. Sharon for sharing with us the initiatives of Morination and for giving us an overview on the Moringa pod as a potential source for health and its strength as a valuable crop. Okay, for our participants, kindly use the Q&A box for your questions. Our next speaker for this session came from the private sector as well, from the logistics and distribution sector. Mr. Rene Pamintuan is the President and General Manager of Tuko Distribution Incorporated, which he will introduce with us during his presentation. He also acts as the President of the Bayside Terminal and Transportation Services Incorporated, which provides different logistics and shipping services. Currently, he sits as a senior advisor on food supply and logistics to the Department of Agriculture Secretary, and he has also led as the chairman of the board of the Plantacion de Sicuate Cacao Growers Association Incorporated, which is the largest organization of cacao growers in the country. And he is also a member of the Philippine Avocado Growers Association. Over to you, Sir Rene. Sir Rene? Yes po. Sir Rene, over po to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes po.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody. This is promoting a vibrant fruit industry. Next, please. This okay, we are with the Bayside Terminal and Transportation Services and Tuko Distribution Incorporated. I'm also Vice President for Sierra Madre Cacao Company. Next, please. Bayside does supply chain, logistics, international transport. We do export, we do shipping, imports, consolidation, customs brokerage, container sales and leasing, trucking, warehouse, cold storage facilities. Next, please. These are the branches that we have. We cover the entire country. Next, please. Tuko Distribution is a green company. It's green because, and we took the name from the gecko, Tuko, which implies that if you have a farm and you still have Tuko in your farm, it means your farm is healthy, green, and safe. Because otherwise, if you're using pesticides, chemical pesticides, then the insects, and without the insects, the gecko, the Tuko will not survive. Next, please. Tuko is a social advocacy tool for farmers. We are doing market linkages, logistics. We move goods from the farmers all the way to the markets. Capacity building, social employment generation, and many other things that are needed out there in the rural sector. Next, please. Next page, please. We are also selling in the market, both B2B, B2B and B2C. We have that is now out there in the market. Take note, the connecting me.me stroke Tuko Mercado Manila. Okay, this provides delivery all over the Metro Manila and possibly all over the Philippines. Next, please. Next, please. What we do today is freight forwarding, logistics, tracking, customs brokerage, cold storage, freight, and shipping. Next, please. Tuko is market linkage for so many fruits and vegetables. You could see on the picture what we are doing right now. We buy and sell ube, langka, gabi, fruits, avocado, guayabano, pineapples, and many others. Next, please. As you could see, we handle all of these types of produce traffic. Next, please. In fact, we already went into the development of an ice cream possibility. We are doing now mango cheese, buko ube, avocado, durian, and this is still being this is still on an experimental stage. We're doing it homemade, but we think it has huge potential for growth. Next, please. We are in fact exporting the bananas and pineapples to Dubai. So as a transportation business, we are doing a lot of trading, foreign exports and imports. Next, please. So these are the questions that were posed on us. How can we help fruit farmers increase yield and profit given the current situation? Is that in the entire country today, the agriculture is production-led. We want to shift it to market-driven. Market-driven means we will be the one to tell the farmers what to plant, give him a PO, tell him how much is the price, the volume we need, what time of the year he's supposed to harvest so that we could optimize the farmers' options and possibilities. By doing so, we will make the farmer very productive. Rather than he sitting down there waiting for markets to come to him, we are already the market and we're already providing him the PO. We also teach the farmer the standards. We know the previous speaker has mentioned this. Standards are very hard to do, but in our case, we teach the farmers the standards. If we have to develop a packing plant, we do so. If we have to develop a toll processing facility, we look around to it so that we can export. So we are approaching all of this on a very entrepreneurial mode rather than academic or rather than research only. We do it because it has a profit orientation. Next, please. One of the problems that we have is that in the Philippines, most of the fruit trees are all backyard mode. Why that is so? I don't know. Since 1946 Independence Day, our Department of Agriculture has not pushed for tropical fruit tree plantation. In fact, they don't have a tropical fruit tree plantation strategy. Without such a strategy, our fruit tree business or industry is going nowhere. In fact, you would look at the statistics that the previous speakers have been saying. The value is going down, the hectareage is going down, the harvest yield is low, etc., etc. The prices are retreating. Why is that? Because we cannot develop an industry. We do not have a tropical fruit tree plantation. We have received a lot of inquiries for avocado. So what we're doing right now in a private initiative, we're trying to build up the avocado plantations in the Mindanao. Why Mindanao? Because there is no typhoon there. If we plant it in Luzon, then we suffer. It's sad that the mango business is not moving forward. In fact, it's retreating. In the 80s, when I was still with the shipping lines, we used to load 50 to 250 container loads of mangoes on our Manila to Hong Kong shipping vessels. That's about 5,000 tons a week. Yung report kanina sa statistics is we are only doing 12,500 for the whole year, metric tons for the whole year ng mangoes. Whereas in the 80s, we were already doing 5,000 a week. And in 6 months' time, that's about 120,000 metric tons. Where did all those mangoes go? I don't know. We should ask our DA about it because they should know. No one else knows. So sad naman na our mango has retreated and we could not even cope up. And you know what? In the 80s, the source of mango are only two provinces. That's Zambales and Pangasinan. Today we have more. We are already looking at mangoes all over the Philippines, but still our export pala is very low. Why is it very low? Our mangoes suffer from sesame fly infestations. The sesame fly infestation stops us from exporting. We cannot export them unless we pass them through hot vapor treatment or hot water treatment. These are machineries that needed to be set up, and we have been perennially for the past that I can remember asking the DA to provide those machines to the farmers so that they can remove the sesame fly infestations, the maggots on the skin of the mango fruits. Until now, wala. Hindi pa rin nangyayari. We need value chain. Value chain is not really existing. Sabog-sabog. Most of the value chain processors and manufacturers are based in Metro Manila. The fruits are coming from Mindanao. The fruits are coming from Northern Luzon or Calabarzon or Visayas. Transporting them to the value chain system is very difficult and means a lot of losses. We need a lot of things like processing houses, better packaging and carton box services and costs, cold storage facilities, R&D for food tech, and many other to compete worldwide. That will include leveling up our farmers on GAP, GMP, HACCP, and food standards for exports to different countries. Next, please. Okay, on the monitor, you would see the exports standards and accreditations that we must have so that we can export. Without these export standards, the importing country will refuse it. Of course, this includes phytosanitary inspection certificate. But just to get all of these certifications, cost a lot of money already. So what should we be doing? How are we going to go around this constraint and problem? I've been suggesting that the DA should look into the setting up of regional food terminals. Yung dati nating food terminal in Taguig, sadly, has even been sold out. But actually, we need that. We need a regional food terminal so that every region should be export accredited like the ones that you see on the monitor right now, so that the farmers don't have to spend money for accreditation. The facility is the one that is provided with accreditation and certification. So if the farmers use the facility, hindi na nila gagastusin yun. But the situation is, eto tayo, we can hardly cope up because the government does not see what is really strategic and they're not doing it. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, nabanggit ko na ito, hot vapor treatment and hot water treatment. We don't have it. Meron yan, yung mga private, very few have it. So therefore, the export is constrained, the volumes are down, and we cannot cope up. Thank you. Can you please, next slide, please. So we need to look at value chain, supply chain, cold storage, processing centers, R&D, and GMP. Take note, I'm emphasizing this very strongly because our DA is looking at our helping our farmers. They're looking at it from a small concept as livelihood. They are not building industry. If you do not build the industry, forever and ever, we will be digressing. We will be retreating. We will not be improving our volumes. We are going down as we are already today. So the perspective of looking at it as a livelihood against building industry is very necessary because it's mindset. Next line, please. Ako nga, sinasabi ko, we don't even have a fruit industry in the what we have is are small businesses that are rising in different places, but I don't consider them as industry. They are not industry. They are mere livelihoods. How might we be able to take advantage of the need for a healthier lifestyle to promote fruit consumption in the Philippines? Better education, promotion, marketing, establishment of a good supply chain system, so that the products will reach the markets in the best standards possible. Today, what the DA has done is they created all of these bagsakans. Sadly, the bagsakans, while they provide markets for the produce, the term bagsakan is very appropriate. The lowest, the standards are very bad. The fruits are set on the ground. People don't even know about, anything about standard keeping. Statistics are not taken. So wala rin, useless din. Instead of developing our fruit industry, the bagsakans are part of the problem because they force the farmers to sell at the lowest. Next line, please. Okay, so I'm done with the report. I'm interested with developing the Moringa. We could develop that in Mindanao. We have 10,000 hectares of lands. The datus there and the leaders of the tribes are looking for business possibilities. Maybe our Morination company can talk to me. We develop it there. We are already developing the avocado. We are already developing yellow corn. We are buying a lot of avocado, mustang, durian, pomelo, ube, etc., and delivering them to Metro Manila. Those who wish to participate by investing in supply chain and value chain, we are also willing to sit down and talk to you. Salamat po.
All right. Yes, thank you so much po, Sir Rene, for sharing with us your efforts in sourcing directly, of course, to our partners, and of course, your recommendations for the fruit sector in general. And I think, well, thank you so much as well for Miss Sharon. Thank you, Ami. Again, we would like to thank our speakers and Director you, Director Ernesto, Ms. Sharon, and Sir Rene for your valuable insights and sharing. We hope to stay in touch and continue our discussions and hopefully collaborations in the future. And we would also like, of course, to thank our speakers for their questions and active participation today. For everyone, this would be the start for PPSA as we establish the Fruits Working Group. Expect invitations for a series of meetings to discuss various issues and, of course, identify strategies for the specific working group. And lastly, before we end this session, we would like to invite you to the succeeding webinars of this PPSA Working Groups Learning Series. The next topic is on monitoring and evaluating inclusive value chain projects. You may register in advance by scanning the QR code and please anticipate the release of further webinar announcements for the succeeding sessions. Again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you all in our next webinar. Keep safe and keep COVID-free, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.